Hello and welcome back to Higher Sense with Haz. And today we're going to be taking on a more serious topic of fragrance addiction and how to deal with it. Okay then, so I saw a video on YouTube and it was to do with fragrance addiction, and it had quite a lot of comments on it, and I didn't realise just how many people out there may be struggling with fragrance addiction or what they or others perceive to be fragrance addiction. So in today's video I'm going to go through that with you, and I'm going to discuss addiction. I'm going to discuss my predicament and how I dealt with it. And then hopefully at the end of the video, you can look at the information that I've said, the experience, what I've got, and you can decide, are you an addict? And if you are, what techniques can you use in this video to assist you with that? Or are you actually not an addict? So I do have some bullet points on the wall. The reason why I've got them is I don't want to miss anything out of this video. I've sat for some time preparing it because I think it's a very important topic for people, and one that's certainly crossed my mind on a number of occasions, so I want to do it justice. So if you see me looking up behind, it's the bullet points and definitions. So let's start with fragrance addiction and how to deal with it, or how to cope with it, let's say. So what is addiction? An addiction, technically, is a strong physical or psychological urge to do something or use something. So in that sense, in regards to fragrance, do I have a strong psychological urge to use fragrance? Yes, I do. So in that sense, am I addicted? Yes. And the second part is a dependence on a substance or activity, even if you know it causes you harm. So therefore, when you look at fragrance, which is technically a substance and its use, does it cause me harm? If it does cause me harm, then I'm an addict or addicted, and I've got some problems here. But am I an addict? Well, we'll go on and see later in this video if I'm an addict and what I can do about it, or indeed if you're an addict. Okay, so let's have a look. Am I addicted to fragrance to the everyday person? Yes, I am. And the reason I say that is an everyday person doesn't have hundreds of fragrances, whereas I do. Albeit now I'm using them to do reviews. Previously, I was a collector and user, and I had a lot of fragrances. Another issue is, personally, I think financial, which I'll go on to discuss here. So, things to look at to help you deal with fragrance addiction. And number one is finances, in my opinion. And what I mean by that is, how much are you spending on your fragrance collection? Are you putting yourself in debt to fund your fragrance collection? If you are spending more than your income, then obviously you've got problems if you're putting yourself in debt to buy fragrances and use fragrances. However, if you have a monthly income, and let's say, well, we've all got bills to pay, families to look after and things like that. If after all of your bills are paid, the money that you've got left, you use some of it to buy fragrances, and it's not putting you in debt, and it's not causing you financial issues, then you may not necessarily be an addict or have an addiction. However, if you're spending your money as soon as you get it and buying fragrances and leaving yourselves short of paying rent, or putting yourself in debt, or meaning you or your loved ones have to go without other things, like essentials, like, it could be food, water, shelter to some degree, clothing, things like that, then if that's the case, then I believe you may well have an addiction or be an addict and need to seek help, which I'll go on to discuss later in the video. So that's finances. That's something you must consider. Second of all, in my opinion, is health. Now, are fragrances affecting your health? Now, by that, I don't necessarily mean when you inhale the fragrance, does it make you cough, or does it set your chest off, or things like that? Obviously, if it does, that's a separate issue. However, what I mean by health is mental health. Physical health, not so much. However, physical health, if you're buying, using, researching, watching reviews on fragrances at the expense of your health, i.e. you're turning into a couch potato, or you're not going to the gym as much because you're spending too much time with fragrance or something like that, if that's directly affecting your health, that could be an issue. What I mean is mental health. So if you're constantly fixated on fragrances, if you're constantly thinking about fragrances, if you're constantly thinking what is the next fragrance I can purchase, if you're constantly looking forward to what the next fragrance release is, and it's a detriment to other things, then potentially you may have an addiction and you may be an addict. However, if it's not affecting your mental health and it's just something that you're excited about, say you're excited for an upcoming release in a month's time and you're excited about it like you used to be at Christmas as a child, is that an addiction? No. I would say that that's a somewhat healthy interest and a hobby. So this is another thing I'm going to discuss here. Are you a fragrance addict or are you a fragrance hobbyist? That's something I'll go on to discuss. Thirdly, relationships. So is your fragrance use or collecting affecting relationships, direct relationships, relationships with your family, relationships with your friends, potentially relationships with your employee or other people in the outside world? So if you're spending all of your time and all of your money buying, collecting, talking about fragrances and you lose friends because of this, because either they don't want to talk about them as much as you do, therefore they lose interest in your friendship, or you find that you're dropping all of your other interests to pursue, your fragrance interest, or if you're spending all of your money and therefore your family is being affected by not having enough money to pay the bills or not being able to get luxuries like Netflix or takeaways or days out or things like that, which all should get priority over fragrance, may I add. If that's the case and it's affecting your personal relationships with your wife, with your kids, with your parents, then you may have an addiction and you may be an addict and you may have to look at that. So they're the three main areas that I urge you to have a look at: finances, health, and relationships. Does your fragrance interest, and I'll call it an interest because I'm not saying that you're an addict at this point, does your fragrance interest affect any of them three? Now, if it does, then you may need to get some help and assistance. If it doesn't, then it may be a case of you just have a healthy interest and a hobby, and pursuing it may not be a problem for you or anyone else. So what's the issue? Okay, so I'll go on to discuss a bit about myself now, and then I'll talk about some other things, and then we'll come to a conclusion on whether you're an addict, whether you have an addiction, whether I am, and what we need to do about it, if anything at all. So, why do I collect fragrances? First and foremost, I'll go back and give you a little bit of history. This won't be too long, so just stay with it. When I was younger, I was about around 10 years old. I used to get Christmas gifts off everyone, as hopefully everybody did. Now, my grandmother, who's still alive, and she's well into her 90s, her husband was a footballer. So essentially, she was a wag. That's no disrespect, but I'm just painting the picture for you here. So he had a fair bit of money, played for a successful club. I'm not going to name drop, but anyway, he was a good footballer and had good income. So therefore, she didn't need to work. There was plenty of money there for the family, and she always had the best clothing. She always had the best fragrances. So mink coats, hair done to the nines, best makeup you can get, Chanel perfumes, whatever fragrances she wanted, she got, because she believed that looking good and smelling good were important. Now, my quote, that clothing gets you noticed, but fragrance gets you remembered, this is where it stems from. It stems from my grandmother, because when she first got with my grandfather, so to speak, and they were dating, that was something he commented on. He commented on her fragrance and how appealing it was and how it added to the overall allure. And he wanted, to get to know her a bit better, and he was intrigued by her, by how great she smelt and what she wore and why she dressed like that. And overall, it added to the interest. So what I will say is fragrance was a big part of her life. And at Christmas, she used to gift me numerous expensive fragrances because A, she had the money to do so, and B, she had the love to give me something that she thought I'd care about. And she always used to say to me, and my parents as well, always encouraged me to dress well, present myself well, get your hair done, wear nice fitting clothes, sit up straight, tuck your shirt in, all of that kind of thing. And my grandmother was no different. She used to say to me, Are you dating girls, Paul? Do you have a girlfriend yet? And, when you do get a girlfriend, you want to look good, you want to smell great and all that kind of thing. She was speaking from experience. So every Christmas and birthday, I would get a number, 2, 3, maybe 4 different fragrances, all for the time in the 90s, top quality fragrances, top brands, expensive brands, but she had the money to do so. And I didn't realize at the time just how much money she invested in it and how great these fragrances were. So at first, when I was young, I used to smell the fragrances and I was, I was new to fragrance. I was like, wow, this is overwhelming. And some I absolutely hated, some of which I really enjoy now. And they are classic vintage, which is fantastic. But yes, so then I got a few designer fragrances, got my nose interested in fragrance. And then, when I was in my teenage years, as you go through development and you start to get interested in women and things like that, which is a terrible addiction, I might add, and one that I don't recommend to anybody if you want to take care of your finances and mental health. But then again, that's a joke. I'm sure many of you have plenty of fantastic relationships, and relationships are fulfilling and can lead to family. So I'm certainly not discouraging you from that. It's just a bit of lightheartedness in this very serious topic. So yes, as the years gone on, my fragrance collection grew thanks to my grandmother. And as I was becoming a teenager, I started to dress well, take care of myself. I was aware of women and things like that. So I used to wear fragrance. And overall, the reason why I use and collect fragrances, the main reason is fashion and, self-worth and things like that. I wear outfits depending on where I'm going, what I'm doing, what the season is, and who I'm with. So if I'm going out in the summer to summer evening socials, I will wear something completely different to if I'm doing a business meeting in the winter. Now, I know that sounds obvious, but a lot of people like to wear jeans all year round. A lot of people like to wear a white t-shirt all year round, or a jumper, or whatever it may be. With me, every day, depending on what the weather is, where I'm going, what I'm doing, who I'm with, will depend on what I wear. And by that I mean, do I wear shorts? Do I wear jeans? Do I wear not corduroys, but kind of like fabric, lightweight trousers? Do I wear fitted jeans? Do I wear a t-shirt? Do I wear a button shirt? Do I wear a fitted shirt, a muscle shirt? Or do I wear a relaxed shirt because it's hot and I'm just going for socials and I don't want to sweat and things like that, So, and fragrance is the cherry on the top. So when I've got my outfit for the day, and don't forget trainers is an important part of your outfit, and I do have a nice trainer collection. Again, that all goes towards my outfit. After I've selected my outfit, I don't have to select a fragrance, because this is another thing I want to discuss later on. Do I have to wear fragrance? No. Do I enjoy wearing fragrance? Yes. And the benefits outweigh the cons, therefore I wear fragrance. So I've got my outfit, and then I have a look at my fragrance collection, which for those of you who don't know, probably is around 250 bottles, and that's after selling quite a few. So I've probably got 250 bottles. I've got them all in different sections. I've got florals, I've got fruities, I've got earthy notes, things like that. So therefore, depending what I'm wearing and what the season is, will depend what fragrance. So I've narrowed them down so I'm not wasting time. And by now, I kind of know the areas I want. So then I'll go have a look at my fragrances, look at the situation, look at my outfit, and then decide, yes, this is the fragrance I want to wear for today. Apply the fragrance, go and enjoy my day. My fragrance enhances my experience of the day. It perks us up. It gives us a bit of confidence. It gives me a bit of character. It gives me something to potentially discuss with people. But overall, do I like to smell good for health and hygiene reasons? Yes. But mainly I wear fragrance because of my fashion sense, and I want to wear it. I don't have to wear it, but I choose to wear it. Now, interestingly, the topic of addiction is what led to me starting a fragrance review channel. So a lot of people look at my fragrance collection and think, Christ, he's an addict. And I'd agree to a degree. And they all said, look, why don't you actually do something with these fragrances and start a review channel? You're very enthusiastic about talking about fragrances, and so are we sometimes. But sometimes I bore people to death. So they said, why not do a fragrance review channel, review fragrances, and other people like yourself can listen, enjoy, learn, and maybe enhance their hobby. Fantastic. So that's how we are here today. But the topic of fragrance addiction had me thinking, and there was another video which I viewed, which I may have mentioned, which got a lot of comments, and it was a guy talking about his experience with fragrance, how he'd spent quite a bit of money, how he felt he was an addict and sold his fragrances, and how you only need one fragrance for this, that and the other, which is fine, that's his opinion. Some things I disagreed with. However, there was a lot of comments, so therefore I thought I'm going to do a video to address that, because there seems to be a lot of people out there who are thinking the same thing. I'm an addict, or I'm addicted, or am I an addict? Am I addicted? What can I do about it? So that's what I'm here today to try and help you with. Okay, so if any of them three subjects affect you negatively, then deal with them, address them. If not, then enjoy your hobby. Okay, so another thing that I'd like to discuss is everyone has hobbies to a degree. Some people like to do things where they get little or no return. Socializing makes you feel good about yourself, but it costs you money. Do you get anything else back from it? No. Do some things affect your health? Yes. So I'll go through a list of hobbies that people do with little or no return, and some people will do them quite freely, but they wouldn't necessarily say they've got an addiction or they're addicted. So I'm just going to check my list so I don't miss anything out. So the examples which I gave were drinking, partying, drugs, strip clubs, gambling, and things like that. There's 5 hobbies that people do which can affect health, physical and mental, relationships, and finances. Now, a lot of people do one or multiple of them and don't necessarily think it's an addiction or they're addicted. Now, gambling can severely affect your mental health. Can you get some financial return? Yes. Drugs, no financial return. All you're getting is a psychological boost. Costs you a lot of money and ultimately can cost you a lot of your health. Strip clubs, again, entertainment for money. Partying and drinking, same kind of thing. Drinking can affect your liver and affect your health in the long run. Can't recommend that kind of thing in excess. Any of these in moderation, if you want to do them, fine, as long as it's not affecting your finances, relationships, or health to a degree where it's a concern. Do things sporadically, similar with fragrance. But a lot of people do them things that I've pointed out and get little to no return from it financially. Whereas fragrance here's what I get from fragrance. It gives discussion, it gives interest, knowledge, and some investment. So what I mean by that is, if you buy a fragrance, and I'm on multiple buy and sell forums, I'll buy a fragrance for a certain price. Let's say I get it for half price, a good price. Now, if I don't like the fragrance, I could potentially sell that fragrance on and either get my money back, make a very small loss, or in some cases, you may even make a profit if you've got something at a really good deal. So when you buy a fragrance, you've got a number of options. You can display the fragrance. I've got fragrance displays, which I enjoy. I've got fish tanks, which are display items, which I enjoy. Some people set the house out a certain way, so it's very prim and proper and looks great with the fireside and the logs and all that kind of thing. Same thing with fragrance. If you like a fragrance display, great. So when you buy a fragrance, you can use it, you can display it, and you can resell it. So don't think, my God, I've got all of these fragrances, I've wasted all my money. Not necessarily. If you don't like a fragrance, or you buy a fragrance which is better, then why not sell a fragrance you don't use anymore and move it on? That's what I would say. So when you're buying fragrance, or you've got a big fragrance collection, which I'm guessing is one of the reasons why you're watching this video, because you feel you may be an addict or have an addiction or have too many fragrances. So at that point, why not resell them? Sell them on eBay, sell them on the fragrance forums. If you're not using a fragrance and you think, I'm not going to use this anymore, or if you've got 100 ml and you're thinking, I've got so many, I'm never going to use that amount, why not decant some and sell some? Why not use some, then sell the rest? Or if you've bought a new fragrance and it's better and it's a very similar fragrance, let's say a summer freshie, sell the one that you're not going to use. Everybody moves on and buys bigger and better things, whether it's cars, clothing, houses, or whatever. iPads, phones, for example. Everyone seems to buy a new phone every year or a couple of years and upgrade the phone. Nobody says, I don't hear many people saying that they've got an addiction to phones just because they buy a new one every now and again. So it doesn't necessarily mean you've got an addiction or you're an addict if you buy numerous fragrances. Here's an example for you. Let's just say I've got 20 designer fragrances at £50 a pop. So by my math, that's £1,000 worth of fragrances. And if I show the everyday Joe I've got 20 fragrances, they'll probably say, wow, that's a lot of fragrances. You know, I've got one for work, one for play, one for socials. I've got 3 and that's more than enough for me. You've got 20. God, you've got a problem. You must be an addict. I've spent £1,000 on fragrances. However, let's just say I've got 3 Roger parfums to name drop. He sells expensive fragrances. Now let's just say it's 3 top-end Roger fragrances at £1,000 each. So I've got 3 fragrances and I've spent £3,000. So I've spent 3 times the amount of money I did on the designer collection. Now, if most people look at my collection, 3 fragrances, and they don't know much about fragrance or anything, they'll say, yeah, that's fine. You're not an addict. You've only got 3 fragrances. You haven't got an addiction. So what classifies an addiction? Is it the money spent or is it the amount you've bought? Because personally, finances is a big issue. So for me, having 3 Roger parfums for £3,000, in my opinion, gives you more of an addiction or makes you more of an addict than if you bought 20 fragrances for £50 and only spent £1,000. The reason I say that is because the Roger parfums affect your finances more. Now, if that means that your finances are negatively affected and it causes issues in relationships, mental health, then that is more of an addiction issue which needs addressing than if you have 20 fragrances and only spent a third of the money and it doesn't affect your finances, relationships, or mental health at all. So that's why I say at the start of the video, when I said, if people look at my or another person's collection, they may say, wow, you're addicted. You've got an addiction. However, that may not be the case because they may have been gifted them fragrances. They may have got them for a very good price, where someone with a much smaller collection could be having a lot more problems because it's affecting the finances. So don't take everything on face value. So hopefully that'll help some people watching the video who have got a lot of fragrances and think, I am definitely an addict. That may not be the case. Okay, so let's have a look at what else we've got. Okay, so to round everything up, am I an addict? Yes, I think I am a fragrance addict because I have a lot of fragrances. I spend quite a bit of money on fragrances. I like to talk about fragrances. I like to use fragrances. So am I an addict? Yes. Do I have an addiction, however? No. And the reason I don't think I have an addiction is because if someone said to me, don't buy a fragrance for the next 6 months and do not wear a fragrance for the next 6 months. Could I do it? Yes. Do I want to do it? No. But could I do it? Yes. Physically and psychologically, I could do that. Therefore, I don't think I have an addiction. I think I am a fragrance addict because I enjoy them to quite a large degree. But for me, there are no negative effects from the 3 sections, finances, health and relationships that I've mentioned, not to a level where it needs addressing. So therefore, I don't think I have an addiction. That may come as a surprise to some of you. Now, I hope that people watching the video who initially thought that they were an addict or they had an addiction have listened to everything I've said, took it into consideration and maybe changed their mind a bit. Now, if it's the case of you believe you are an addict or do have an addiction, I will put some contact details in the comments below of people who you can contact to get help with your issues, help and advice to hopefully move forward. Things you can, like things I've discussed, sell fragrances on if you're not using them, or look at your finances and limit yourself to maybe 1 or 2 fragrances a month. That could be handy. If you're buying 5 at a current rate, say, right, well, from now on, I'm only going to buy 2. And therefore, once you've bought your 2, that's it. And you've got to stick to it. If you can do that, then that's great. That's healthy for your finances. That's healthy for your mental health. So sell fragrances you don't use. Limit yourself to what you're buying. But if you look at them 3 sections that I've mentioned and nothing is adversely affected to the point you need to change it, then in my opinion, enjoy your hobby and enjoy your interest. A lot of people have interests in sports, movies, things like that. In the 90s, I knew people who bought DVDs for extortionate prices, £15, £20 a DVD in the 90s, which is probably about 30, 40 quid these days, and they had hundreds, and they'd only watch them once. But they'd have a DVD collection. Everyone was like, wow, this is amazing. Nobody said they were addicted to films. So why is fragrance any different? I don't know. Seems to be a bit of a stigma with fragrance. A lot of people think it's a waste of time, waste of money, it's just smelly water or whatever it may be, but I've got a different opinion. So I hope that this video has given you some context and helped out all you people who think you're an addict or have an addiction. If it hasn't helped, then I do apologize for that. If it has given you some insight or helped, then please drop a comment below. Let me know first if it's helped. Second of all, what your issues are or your situation. By all means, keep it relatively anonymous, but you can say, this is my issue. What you said here has helped me. That would be fantastic. Put that below. I would ask that if you get some value from this video, to like the video, share it if you can, subscribe if you haven't. This is a different video to the review videos that I normally do. However, I thought that this was something which needed to be discussed and that I could help people out there, because I'm not just here to review fragrances and have a great time and get likes and subscribers and things like that. If people have a healthy interest in this hobby, then I'm here to try and help and save you money and give you insight. However, if you think you have a problem or you have a problem, I wanted to make this video to directly address and help you with that, because at the end of the day, I'm a human after all. I've been in and going through similar situations to yourself out there who's struggling. So therefore, I'm speaking directly to you. I want to help you. And if this video has helped, fantastic. Give me a like if you could. It's free and it's simple, and it helps to get this video out to other people who may not see this video. So like, subscribe, comment, it's very important. Get this video out there so other people who have got concerns and it's affecting your lives, they can see this video and hopefully get a better understanding or get the help and assistance that they need. Thank you very much for tuning in. Hopefully the next video will be back to reviews. I hope this has helped from the bottom of my heart. And yes, I'm getting very serious with this channel. As you can tell, I've got myself a professional microphone now instead of the pink one that I was using, albeit it's very funny and it got me started. I now feel that I need to take things a bit more seriously. So until the next time, take care of yourself and take care of everyone else. And remember, clothing gets you noticed, but fragrance gets you remembered.